figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. We got a lot of news to get into here today. And got to start off with the death of Jordan Breen, Dave. Been a big part of MMA journalism and Sherdog radio many, many years. Tell us about him.
Do you remember him?
I remember the name. I feel like he was on our show once, but I did not know him well.
Probably. You probably would have met him in Vegas because before the UFC shows, he would always come up and talk to me when we would be eating dinner before the shows. Pretty much every show that in that era. So you probably met him, but the guy was a genius. He was 38 years old and turned 38 on Sunday. And it's really sad. I don't remember exactly. I heard about him before I met him. Joe Silva told me that there's this guy, Jordan Breen, and it's like he said, like, he's the smartest guy in MMA. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I met him, and it's like he was really smart. Like, probably when I met him, he started with Sherdog when he was like 19. And I met him, and we used to talk about pro wrestling all the time. And he was one of these guys who watched pro wrestling, and then he read The Observer, and he had like that brain where it was just like, it was kind of like a Mauro Ranallo, where you just remember every single thing. And he was just like, he became so knowledgeable about pro wrestling and understood the business like really, really quick, like more than almost anyone. And even though he didn't really follow, he followed it closely, and he was definitely a fan, and he used that knowledge to understand MMA. Like he understood, like MMA and MMA business. Like he could break down fights real well with the best of them, but he understood business. Like he picked up the business end really quickly too. And he was with Sherdog Radio, up until, I don't know. I saw that the last byline he had was like in 2018, so he just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. I hadn't heard his name in years and years and years. I hadn't talked to him in God knows how long. But I used to talk to him before every show. I'd done shows with him. I did before UFC shows, we would do breakdowns of the fights, like of the whole card. And man, like I had to be on my game to keep up with him. He was that good. And, it's really, I didn't hear much about him for years and years. And I guess he dropped out of the scene. Most of the people had no contact with him, probably seven years or longer. Personal issues and things like that. And I don't know what he passed away from, but, it seems like, I don't know what triggered everything. He was a regular, I'm just kind of like at a loss when it comes to that, but just a, nice guy, smart guy. You could talk to him about any subject, and he was really able to talk about like almost anything. You want to talk politics, he could figure that one out. Business. We talked UFC business and decision making and things like that. And he was always really, just really, really sharp on that. He learned to understand very quickly what fights drew, what fights didn't draw. Where a lot of the people from his era in the media, in the MMA media, didn't get that at all. And he figured that out, which a lot was from studying pro wrestling. That's where a lot of people figured that out from. And, really smart at all those aspects and everything like that. Nice guy, very friendly. It floored me when I heard about it, but it was weird because it's like, I haven't talked to him in years. I did not know what he was up to. I didn't hear from him, much after, I'm going to think, maybe 10, 12 years. Because I'm trying to come up with it. I know let's see, I was finished with Yahoo in like 2011, I think. And, I definitely talked with him after that for a little while, but but it doesn't feel like much past that period. So, yeah. But he was like a pioneer wrestling journalist, one of the first ones to really kind of figure it out. Really brilliant when it came to analyzing fights and just remembering things off the top of his head. I mean, he probably remembered like every single fight. He was, at one point in charge of the SureDog database and everything like that. So, but he was all late in his 20s, and then by the time he was in his 30s, pretty much disappeared off the face of the earth. I know that at one point he was helping his father, who was having a lot of issues, his older father and everything like that. But I just, a lot of fond memories of hanging out with him before shows, talking to him, and just, analyzing the business with him, and the different changes and everything like that during that very formative period from, I'm going to say, let's see, if he was 19, so it's 19 years ago. So 19 years ago would be 2006. So I would say I probably met him shortly after 2006 and would have probably been, so it's like about a 5-year period where I talked to him at like almost all the shows, and before the shows, always came up and something happened with me and Dana. He was always like one of the first guys to come up and just kind of laugh it off and everything. So yeah, good guy. Sad story.
All the best to his friends and family. There's a lot on the internet today about him. You can check social media. But one of the first guys.
Yeah, it's really, the thing that really hit me is, it's kind of one of those things where somebody like that, Ant Evans actually wrote this, who knew him, not as well as I did, but he knew him, about how, everyone is talking about him today, but, nobody has in years. And it's like, sometimes it's probably good to, to tell people what you think of them now, because once they're dead, they're not going to hear it. So that was kind of Ant Evans's kind of response to that, which I thought was pretty good, because again, all these people are saying this and everything, and I don't think anyone ever said that when he was alive. But just like one of those guys, man. Friendly, brilliant, really had a great depth of understanding of any subject that he wanted to tackle. Whatever he got into, he could learn it really, really fast. I mean, if he had gone into wrestling, he'd have blown away. Not Scoops guy or anything, but as far as like understanding of the business and what works and what doesn't work and things like that, he'd have blown almost everybody away in that, including the wrestlers. Because, I mean, he understood the fighting better than the fighters did. Just he understood just styles and everything. I mean, man, he was really good at that.
Jim Ross is back home. He tweeted, made it home from the hospital, but feeling rugged, he said. Need to kick out, I'm trying. So it sounds like he's in rough shape.
Yeah, he says he's getting better every day, though. So hopefully
that's good.
Hopefully that's a good sign, and hopefully he will be at All in Texas. I think that's the goal. And he's had it rough, really rough. This was,
he's a week out right now from the surgery.
Yeah. From he had cancer in 2 places in his colon, so it's hopefully they got it, and hopefully it doesn't come back.
We've got another WWE departure. Sarah Logan, former Valhalla. Her contract is not being renewed, and she did a long social media post where she basically said, clean break from wrestling. She's going to focus on other pursuits. And, she was very emotional about it. This was her career for a long time, but she just wants to...
Since she was a teenager. She was crazy Mary Dobson before she met Ray Rowe, and they got married and have 2 kids. And, I mean, she hasn't been on TV since she got pregnant with the second child. And, he was born several months ago. they hadn't called her back or she hadn't called to come back. So, I mean, that's, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that one. It's kind of a weird one to me. Someone, who was coming back from her pregnancy and then getting fired. Carmella sort of had that, didn't she? She got pregnant. She never came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's no one's talking about it. It's not the greatest look. I mean, yeah, it's not the greatest look to do that. But it's what happened. I mean, she was mostly in her last run. She was doing a lot less wrestling, and she was just more in the corner of the War Raiders, interfering and stuff. And they're baby faces now. But I guess it's just one of those things. They had numbers to cut, and if you're not around, and you're, I don't know where she would fit in. I mean, it was not like I could see her coming back and being a major force in the women's division. I mean, that's the truth. So, I get it. I get it. So, but it's, there's, again, as more people come up, there's going to be more cuts. That's just the law. That's just the laws of roster space when it comes to a sports franchise. And like I said, with Killings and Carlito, it's like WWE is not a sport, AEW is not a sport, but they are sports franchises, and the rules of sports franchises are the same. And in their case, when you're talking about a public company, it's even harder. I mean, Tony Khan has the ability, and he's even talked about this, he has the ability to keep people longer, or, not cut people that he's not using during COVID, where WWE was cutting people left and right, even though they were the ones that were profitable and he wasn't. But basically said, look, I'm not a public company. I can do this easier than they can. They have to maximize profits, and that's the goal, and that's the thing. And some people are mad about it, but that's what being a public company is what allowed them to be as big as they are, to grow at the level that they are, and all that. So, you take the good with the bad when you are like that. I mean, it's the same with UFC. It's like there's a lot of stuff very, very different, in UFC, when the Fertittas owned it to when Endeavor owned it. And with WWE, it's the same thing. It's very different. It's colder. It's funny. Vince is not the warmest guy, but it's colder. There's less nostalgia. There's less, it's just basically, people help build your company. The new owners come in and it's like, whatever you've done in the past doesn't matter. It's a clean slate. And if they have somebody else doing the job, if someone in UFC was doing a certain job, even if somebody had been doing it for years and years and years in WWE and did it well, it's like, we already got somebody to do that job. We don't need two people. And so that's that. But yeah, I don't know if this is the end of the cuts. But
my guess is we probably have a few more.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the thing I told you about Carlito, it's like, you're not saying that unless you're done. They won't tell you. Like with Sarah Rowe, it's the same thing. Like when her contract expires, I guess she's gone. But like, they don't tell you unless they are done using you. If they wanted you for 3 more weeks, they tell you in 3 weeks. That's how it works there. If they needed you for something past your contract, they would just kind of ignore the contract thing, and it would just kind of roll. They'd just kind of like not talk about it, and then they'd axe you. You know what I mean? So with Carlito, he was not on the show. There was no explanation. Nobody said a word. He just wasn't there.
They did chant "We want truth" all night.
Did they? How much did they chant that? I know they did after the show was over. Did they?
They definitely did it on the show, because there was a chant in I forget which match it was, but I was trying to, for the life of me, I could not figure out what chant it was, because it wasn't "We want tables," which is what they normally chant, and I could not figure it out. And then in the main event, they started chanting it again, and that's when I realized they're chanting "We want truth." So yeah. It did make air, I think, twice.
Yeah.
It might have been a chant for Carlito, like they might have been chanting like "We want Lito" or something.
I don't think so.
There was something. Well, it was